Welcome, friends. This is a series on natural law and consciousness. Today we're going to be looking at the tarot, the symbolism of the tarot. And in this first part, in this two-part series, we're going to be looking at the microcosmic tree and the major arcana. The tarot is based on the Book of Life is based on 78 cards. They're in two sets, 22 cards of the major arcana and 56 cards of the minor arcana. So we're going to look at the tarot deck and how it relates to the Kabbala, the tree of life. And in this first video we're looking at the major arcana and the microcosmic tree of the major arcana. The Rider Waite tarot deck is the deck that I'm going to be using. So the 11 cards of the microcosmic tree. Now, the major arcana is a higher realm of knowledge, of the soul and of the universe. The minor arcana is lower knowledge of the self and the realms of personality. These are decks of power. They correlate to the playing deck of cards as well, the common deck. The Kabbalah and the Tarot can be used for good or evil. It depends on a person's consciousness. Please understand the occult maturely. Takes it into the realm where it is most prevalent and distributed, because distributed information is the only way that's going to lead to anything that resembles true freedom in our world. When the occult is no longer the occult, it is no longer hidden, it's not occult anymore. It becomes common sense, common knowledge. Now, to deal with the word occult. The occult is nothing evil or negative. It simply means hidden. Knowledge can be used for good or evil. The Kabbalah and the Tarot are the oldest and the most sacred traditions regarding self-knowledge and the forces at work in nature, within the individual units of consciousness, the soul. Some occult philosophers have called this the monad, the individual units of self-awareness of consciousness, and how this relates to forces at work in nature, and the macrocosm, the realm of the universe. Now, the tarot is more than just a deck of cards. It's a book. It's a book of symbols, telling us the story of our consciousness. The tarot has been referred to as the book of life and the book of truth. The imagery of these cards is rich and detailed. Now, this video is only an introduction, it's a primer. It's hopefully to get students or people interested enough to seek out this information further and go deeper. This tradition teaches about the self. The word arcana in Latin means higher knowledge. All of the trump cards represents the connection between the soul and the universe. This is the principle of correspondence, or the Hermetic principle of as above, so below. That taking place at an individual is a reflection of an outward of what's happening outside, in other words, in society. And what goes on in our society is reflected at higher levels of the universe. So, depending on how people employ their consciousness will depend on the results we get in the world. If you keep putting a particular type of energy in any particular system, it will result in more kinds of that type of energy. For example, if you heat a pot of water, you'll get hot water. If you keep adding cold water to that hot water, the temperature will go down. The entire pool of water will become colder. These decks are arranged in energy levels. The major arcana is the highest deck regarding knowledge and energy. The major arcana is a deck of the soul and universal forces at work in nature. Nothing is higher in consciousness and energy. Therefore it is considered the fifth element of the deck. The fifth element describes the soul and the forces of nature. The four decks of the minor arcana represent what goes on in the material plane. Fear-based consciousness is a fear of lack and an obsession with the physical world. As a result, people have become more reptilian in their brain function. This is when people live from the lowest part of their brain structure, the R complex of the brain. This is when people live in a state of fear. People want to take and hoard at the expense of others. They create a dichotomy between the haves and the have-nots. With this kind of consciousness, when that gets hold, when people who want to control others through these methods, these dark occultists, when they get hold of occult information, they want to hide that information. They don't want people to know it. They don't want people to wake up and become aware, because in that case it would not be controllable. This is knowledge about the psyche and about how the mind works. Among the left brain imbalanced people of this world, it has been twisted and perverted and used as a weapon against people. This explains the dark elements of occultism. Now, we need to be more mature in understanding of the occult. It is higher knowledge. We need to understand how this knowledge is used. Too many people paint the occult with a broad brush, saying it's all negative. Hence, dominators want people to think in this way. They don't want people to seek out this information. They're interested in painting occult schools as though they are evil. Religions also have a vested interest in having people view the occult as unfavourable. Occult just means hidden, not good or bad. It's how information is used that makes it good or bad. If you don't have this knowledge, then people who do have the knowledge can use that knowledge to manipulate people like a puppet. Now, accept that or don't accept it. Regardless, it is the truth. Keter. Self-mastery is represented as the magician, who is elevated to a higher point. The magician represents a soul journey into a state of incarnation on earth. So let's look at it, the standard deck of playing cards. The major arcana represents the quintessence, the fifth element, the soul, the spirit, natural law. These things are not considered essential and have been removed from the modern playing deck. The playing cards have been made into something we play instead of something we take seriously. They can be interpreted as allegories about the nature of the self and natural law. The only card that has been kept in the mundane deck is the Joker card, which corresponds to the Fool card in the major arcana. The minor arcana are suits of cards in the standard playing deck of cards. They're arranged in 4 sets called Wands, Cups, Swords, or Pentacles. Pentacles, or coins, represent the physical world. They correspond to resources in the physical world, the physical plane, our earthly talents, capabilities, things that we're born with. Some things that we are able to do that others, sometimes we can do things better than other people. It's our material resources in the physical world. Could represent money, resources such as food, a house, etc. Now, the suite of diamonds is about riches or money in the physical world. Asiyar. This is Asiyar in the Kabbala, the material plane, and it is the lowest level of consciousness. Swords, the mental plane, relates to the element of air, and it would be Yetzirah in the Kabbalistic tree. So the seat of spades represents our intellect. It is the cutting qualities of being swords. Cups relate to hearts in the standard playing deck. Represents the emotional plane, the element of water, specifically a chalice. This is the sacred feminine. Cups relate to the Kabbalistic plane of Bria. Cups relate to our emotions and the spirit in which we do things. Wands. Wands are the fire element. This is the plane this is the will. It's the element of fire. Cups relate to the Kabbalistic plane of the Absolute, which is the archetypal world. The fire symbolism is depicted in the cards. Fire is the alchemical symbol. It represents our actions in the world, and our actions create change in the physical world. This is higher than the other elemental forces in the material plane. So let's look at the microcosmic tree of the major arcana. The major arcana is the relationship between the microcosm and the macrocosm. The major arcana has 22 cards, numbered 0 through to 21. The entire major arcana represents taking knowledge of the self and its relationship to the universe. However, the fifth element, the soul or spirit, is left out of this equation. Therefore, according to their numbers, the major arcana cards are in the same position as the Sephiroth on the Tree of Life. The word tarot is word derived from the word Tara. This is a word for the goddess, the sacred feminine. The tradition of the goddess worship that does predate all of the mystery traditions. The sacred feminine tradition of the goddess worship relates to the generative principle, a principle in nature of true, proper care. Nature is a feminine force because the universe came out of the void, out of nothingness. We came out of the womb, the waters of our mother. So our cosmic mother, the mother of the galaxy, gives birth to the stars and the waters. So the cosmic mother of the galaxy gives birth to our solar system and us. And this is how we incarnate into this physical realm to learn. The concept of fortune telling or divination attempts to predict the future through different readings of these symbols. Divination is the use of the tarot deck as a lesser use. Tarot can give us so much more. It can help us to get in touch with our intuitive capabilities, to help us to understand the direction that things are going in our lives, the course of events, and help us to make adjustments if necessary. Now, the earliest uses of the tarot deck were not for divination or fortune telling, but for connecting and understanding the self through interpreting these allegorical symbols. The tarot was embodied in symbols to circumvent the brutal mindset of the time of the Dark Ages, where people would have been killed for speaking truth. They encoded the story of an oral tradition in symbols. It is said that a picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, a symbol is worth 1,000 pictures. There is so much contained within these symbols. You can spend a day speaking on just one card. It's a book, not just a deck of cards. People say that the tarot deck is derived from recent times. Some people say around 1500s. Nonsense. There is evidence that the tarot is much, much older than people give it credit. It is derived from the ancient mystery school traditions, go way back into the ancient world of the Middle East and Egypt. And this is why you see so much Egyptian symbolism in the tarot deck. The Fool is card number 0 in the tarot deck. It's a young man on a quest. He has a bag packed. He has a flower in his hand, a white dog, and he's about to step off a cliff. Now, this card may represent the journey through the physical plane. It's a journey from the known to the unknown, where it begins and ends. And this is why it is card number 0. It's an archetypal card, a dark type of symbol. It represents infinity, the beginning of an end or the end of a beginning. So these are both joined together in a symbol of infinity. It's a journey, not just a destination. So the Fool is going on this journey because he needs to experience the journey. Now, this is not a negative connotation. It is saying that the whole journey is for experience and knowledge. The Fool carries with him very little. It represents that we can't take much with us in this journey through life that really matters. There's very little in human nature. We come into this world with specific innate capabilities, and these are held over by other incarnations. The flower represents the beginning in a pure state. We come into this world in a pure state of consciousness, and we are conditioned into how we think through existing environmental conditions. The dog represents the forces of nature that guide us, guide the journey of the soul through life. More specifically, human intuition, imagination, the guiding forces of the soul's journey through life. You can already see how powerful the symbolism of these cards are. And if you're paying attention, and you pay attention to them, take them seriously. Now, the scientific left brain type of people will ignore the tarot as nonsense. They won't take it seriously. But understand that this is a holistic teaching. It's a teach about the nature of the self. A person who is stuck in their left brain, and that mode of consciousness is really half a person. They are not connected to higher consciousness. That requires the left and the right side of the brain working together, and you can use the tarot as a tool. The Fool is stepping off a cliff into the abyss of the universe's pool of consciousness. He's not going into the fiery abyss of hell, of destruction, but this is where humanity's headed, because most people won't take the journey that the Fool is making. No, the Fool is making the path of initiation, the path of understanding. However, most people want to remain ignorant. They think they can prosper, and that's all there is in life. The Fool's journey is towards higher understanding of the self, higher levels of consciousness. The Fool's goal is to master the lower self. And this is what the tarot teaches us on the microcosmic tree. And this is, the cards are reversed. The Fool card is below the Magician's card. The card number 1 on the trump cards is the Magician card in the minor arcana. The Fool is card 0, positioned on the realm of Darth. Darth on the Kabbalistic tree, not one of the Sephiroth of the Tree of Life. Darth represents the realm of nothing or hidden. The soul forces are initially hidden and must be discovered. They do not exist in the physical world. Darth is the realm of the unbegun, the realm of hidden knowledge, hidden awareness, and it is considered to be the true root of the Kabbalistic Tree of Life, from whence life sprung. The tree comes into matter from non-matter. It's an extension of the spiritual realm, the stargate that leads to the realm of pure spirit or consciousness. The Fool card is not one of the 10 cards of the microcosmic tree of life, but rather a card of the soul or spirit from whence it originates. These symbols are trying to teach you something of the true nature of reality. They teach information about what we're doing here in this realm, what our path is. We can use our will to make this a better world, but we need to receive information from our higher self, and the tarot deck is a tool for achieving this. The Wheel of Fortune card. The Wheel of Fortune teaches us about the material plane, the physical plane, or Malkuth on the Kabbalistic tree. It is a world in which we must use forces to make things happen. The realm where we experience suffering is profound, and it is in proportion to our level of ignorance. To the extent that the qualities of ignorance, apathy, laziness, cowardice are present in us, we will experience more and more suffering. Conversely, the suffering we experience is inversely proportional to how much intelligence, care, and willpower and courage that we have to do the right thing. What is depicted in this card is a wheel of suffering. In Buddhism, it is known as samsara. It also represents the direction we must go to escape this perpetual cycle of suffering. First, we must seek Tara. Tara is the word tarot on this card. Then we must seek truth. Tara is the goddess, the sacred feminine, generative principle in nature. And our nature to get out of the cycle of suffering of this physical realm. That is what the Sphinx represents. He shows us the way. He has the sword of truth. We must initially recognize that there is a pathway to higher consciousness. We're not there yet, but we're at the beginning of our journey. As an initiate, we need to take that leap of faith into the unknown that the fool has taken. It is a leap of faith, a knowledge that there is such thing as truth. We can understand truth. And this understanding will help us to get out of the identification of the physical world, the material world. So the 4 letters of tarot. If we complete a circle and go back to the T, Tara spells tarot. So we'll look at the etymology, where the words come from. Look at anagrams, different ways of arranging those letters, and the different words that can be made from those letters, and the order. So we can see the word rota. And in Latin, this means wheel. Arot in Latin means to cultivate or grow. Orat means to speak in Latin, oration. And Torah is from Hebrew. It is the law. Ator relates to Hathor with a silent H. Hathor is the Egyptian goddess of love. Now, you put all these words together and you get a sentence, which is, the wheel of the tarot cultivates or speaks the law of Hathor. Or we could say, the wheel of the tarot brings order by telling us the law of love. This tradition is about helping us to understand the forces around us at work, our relationship to these governing forces of tarot. This has been called natural law. The 4 angels at the 4 corners of the grand cross of the zodiac, the solar and galactic crosses, are depicted in the middle of the Wheel of Fortune. These are the Gospel riders, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. The archangels, Michael, Raphael, Gabriel, Uriel. Also the elements, earth, air, water, fire. The seasons, spring, summer, fall, winter. Now Taurus is the spring season, which is Pentacles in the minor arcana. Leo is fire, the midpoint of summer, and wands in the minor arcana. Scorpio is the eagle, the constellation Aquila, and this is water, autumn, or cups. Aquarius is air, winter, represented by the angel, the swords of the minor arcana. Also, there are 4 letters, Yod, Hey, Vav, Hey. This is the tetragrammaton, and it is the 4 worlds of the Kabbalah, the 4 elements of nature, and the name of God in Hebrew, which is transliterated as Yahweh or Jehovah. 2 crosses represent the solar cross and the galactic cross. The galactic cross represents the angels or the constellations, and these are at the 4 corners of the zodiac. The pathway out is the pathway through. It is a pathway of the keeper of truth, represented here by the Sphinx, which is one of the keepers of the Hall of Knowledge, symbolized in ancient Egypt. The Hermit. The Hermit is the initiate who has begun the path. He wants to leave the physical, identified state of consciousness. He knows that he has been dwelling in a state of darkness and illusion. Therefore he is set out on this journey of truth. He is a lamp of knowledge. Inside that lamp we see 6 points, a blazing star representing the seal of Solomon. The hermit seeks to know. He knows that he is in spiritual darkness and wants light. That is why he wears a dark robe that represents the darker aspects of the self. The hermit is an initiate. He realizes that he has much to learn, but he is still in darkness. He wants to receive knowledge. This is associated with the sacrum chakra, the sphere of Yesod, or foundation in the tree of life. He is establishing a foundation through his desire to learn. He is beginning to root himself in higher levels of knowledge and awareness. And he is now out of Asya, the world of materialism. He is on an upward path, upwards towards the cards that are coloured yellow. And this is a dualistic chakra, dualistic emanations along the tree of life, because we must look at this in ourselves, the conjunction. So this is the middle pillar. It is a twofold aspect of the will center. The root chakra is a physical plane, and the sacrum chakra represents Yesod. The hermit has a desire center, wanting to improve oneself, wanting to gain more spiritual knowledge and then apply that with willpower. Will has to be tempered by tarot. This is what the heart chakra is about. The 2 yellow cards represent the dualistic nature of the will, and this is the internal and the external manifestations. The internal manifestation of the card of the left pillar of severity, and that is called strength. This card is associated with the Sephirah known as Hod. Card number 8 is a woman and a lion. This card represents courage. It is an internal quality, the strength to overcome fear. You can see that she has an infinity symbol over her head. That means that she is coronated as an illumined one. She does not want to know the self. She is holding the jaws of the lion with her bare hands, symbolizing courage. This is a symbol of conquering fears, a symbol of strength, and this is the sphere of Hod, or on the left-hand path of severity. The chariot. This is the 7th sphere on the tree of life. It's the secondary aspect of the plane of will. The solar plexus chakra, the chakra that represents willpower, the will to act in the world, inner courage and external willpower to see it through. To get something done, will must be employed within ourselves. That's why he is a chariot driver, the charioteer. He's using two forces, the feminine force of care and the masculine force of action, represented by these two sphinxes. The sacred feminine is dark, the masculine principle is white. He holds a wand to act in the world, representing action in the suit of wands. You'll see this theme represented and repeated as the crowned illuminous. It shows one of the pathways to illumination, to what is meant as enlightenment, acting in the proper moral way. It is on the pillar of action, the pillar of mercy, the right hand, and the hand of the Kabbalistic tree. It is on the sphere of Netzach, which we would associate it with the chariot. The Lover's card is card number 6. This is in the middle of the tree of life, and is about proper care. Adam and Eve represent two forces, the male and the female, and they are brought together by higher consciousness, represented by the archangel Michael. The angels represent higher forces, and love puts us in touch with them. The Lover's card is associated with the heart chakra. This would be the sphere of Tipperith, which means beauty. The Hierophant represents the aspects we exercise within ourselves for self-control, to bring dominion through our thoughts, emotions, and actions, and to bring these into harmony, controlling our thoughts, our emotions, our actions. And you can see he's crowned as a sovereign. He holds the form of one, because it is this is about the form of control, a kind of control that you have the right to exercise. After all, it is taking control over the kingdom of self. This is why it is called severity or Gebura on the tree of life. The Hierophant is internal self-control, self-dominion, represents maintaining control over your words and what you do with your words, because it is associated with the throat chakra. It is about how you use your voice energy to speak things into creation. What you are putting out there. What are you putting out there? Are you speaking the truth? Because this is what this card is all about. The Emperor. Card number 4 on the major arcana. He is associated with the throat chakra as well. And it's a sphere called Chesed, or mercy. It's on the right-hand pillar of the tree of life. The Emperor represents influencing others, being an influence in the world through what we know, what we care about, and what we do. What do we do in life? Do we use our time to influence others for the good? Are you an example of a good king? Setting examples is how to live. And what do you spend your time on? How do you spend the resources that you have? What do you do with your mind? How do you use your voice? This is the external influence and what we exercise upon others around us. Here's a globe representing the earth. This represents our actions, what goes beyond us and influences the world. He is crowned as an emperor with Aries, the ram. It's an active pillar. So these two aspects of the throat chakra, they are internal self-control and external control, the influence of others. It is how we speak ourselves into the world, how we help others move forward on their journey of consciousness, how we speak our truth to others, how we influence others. Do we use our voice to contribute positively to this world, to help others? The Empress card is associated with the goddess Venus. She is crowned with stars. One of the planets is connected with the astrotheological cult of the stars and planets. This relates to Bina on the tree, or understanding. The Empress and the Emperor are associated with the third eye chakra. The High Priestess. She's a goddess. She's in the middle of the Temple of Solomon, between the pillars of Joachim and Boaz. She's on the moon, because she is the moon goddess. The cross represents the heart chakra, giving birth to the Sun Saviour, Jesus, on the cross of the zodiac. Torah is written on the book that she's holding, because she is the goddess of love, truth, and law. The tree behind her is depicted as pomegranates. Now there's rich symbolism all over this card. She is the goddess of truth, Tara herself, represented on the sphere they call Chokmah, or wisdom. Wisdom is what we do with our knowledge, and that's an active quality. The priestess is card number 2 on the major arcana. This goddess represents Hathor, Isis, Diana, Aphrodite, Semiramis, Ishtar, Mary, or any number of the countless feminine goddesses. She represents the forces of natural law and truth itself. The high priestess or goddess sits unveiled between two pillars. These pillars are symbolic in many cultural editions. In the Kabbalistic traditions, they are the pillar of severity and immersion, known as the pillars of Boaz or Joachim. They are labelled as B and J, representing the two tribes of Benjamin in the Judaic tradition. She is holding the Torah, the book of the law. That is a natural law. It is on her heart chakra, and this is a cross. It's showing that she bears into existence the Saviour, the Sun, the light into the world that comes from the void. She is associated with the moon, the crescent moon. She is the goddess of the night sky, the crowned queen of heaven. In ancient occult tradition, the moon is represented by the dove. A white dove makes a journey across the night sky. The symbol is to be taken not literally. The Kabbalistic tree can be seen behind the goddess. Pomegranates. And that's on a veil. She sits within the symbolic Temple of Solomon, not an actual building, but a symbolic building. It's about our brain. It's about the makeup of our human psyche. The pillars of Joachim represent the left brain, or the solar yin energy. The pillar of Boaz represents the dark pillar. That is on the right brain hemisphere, the lunar or the yin energies. The colour of Joachim corresponds to yang energy, the male aspect of our consciousness. So we must bridge these two and combine them in a synthesis if we're to arrive at harmony with truth and natural law. And this is what the goddess represents symbolically. There is a veil because it's telling you that this is not easily visible. It needs to be penetrated, to be done. You need to go within yourself to discover the sacred feminine force, that energy, natural law principles and the truth. And once you go deeper into the self, then you can see this represented as a Temple of Solomon. You go in to find the High Priestess. This corresponds to Chokmah on the microcosmic tree of life. Chokmah in the Kabbalistic tree represents wisdom. The goddess helps us to connect with wisdom, which is knowledge. knowledge that we have accumulated about aspects of ourself and of natural law. Then, when we take proper moral action in the world based on this knowledge, this is why it is on the pillar of mercy, the masculine pillar. If we correspond this to the microcosm on the tree of life, it will be at the top of the right-hand side of the pillar of mercy and wisdom. Now, applying that knowledge that we have taken into ourselves and that understanding, not just understanding in and of itself, it's the sphere on the left side, which is the internal quality of understanding, and then the understanding that is applied out into the world. This card is just before the highest level on the microcosmic tree, taking proper moral action in the world. It puts us closest in cosmic contact to Keter or the crown. The magician. The magician represents self-mastery. The forces in nature, the lower elements of the material world. He wields the wand of power, which connects to the spirit. It is becoming truly illumined, unity consciousness, bringing all the forces of nature under one's command. It is at the very top of the tree. The magician is crowned because he relates to the concept of Keter on the tree of life, the crown. He is illumined, covered in white, surrounded by a white glow, illuminated and bringing light into the world. Now, people who have mastered themselves, their internal forces, are represented by the four objects on the table under his command. The wands, the cups, the pentacles, and the sword. He doesn't need to wield these as weapons because he is now connected to the true scepter of power, which he holds in his right hand. This is an analogue to truth, wisdom, unity consciousness, the concept of as above, so below. The magician refers to the highest self by wielding the scepter of power. This represents that he has conquered himself and the rulers of the self, the kingdom of self. He has dominion over himself. And this is the only thing that you're allowed to have dominion over. You're allowed to rule yourself. You're not allowed to rule other people. He controls his thoughts, his emotions, and his actions, and he has brought them into unity. There is no contradiction between these three aspects of consciousness. The four elements under his command are the four elements of the material world. And when you make these one, it makes a single eye, bringing these into unity. And that is what Jesus termed the kingdom of heaven. You can say to the mountain, move, and the mountain will move. This is command of the forces of nature, and natural law on the side of one who has achieved self-mastery. It is all about the self, and it isn't about serving any god outside of oneself. Now, dark occult traditions will twist this knowledge into being worshipping in something external. Still, there is a pure tradition in these cards. They've come to us in this unity consciousness to help us to become the ruler of the kingdom of ourself. People have termed this the body of God, the unified field between those things that, it doesn't matter what you call it. It is the macrocosm itself, depicted as the goddess figure, the womb of creation, representing the void itself, because everything springs from the void. And everything springs from non-physicality into physicality. Physical reality is not really solid. Matter is only energy condensed to a lower state of vibration. but we call that matter. This card is telling us symbolically that there is no material world per se. So that brings us to the end of the microcosmic cards in the major arcana. So this concludes the first part of a two-part series on the symbolism of the tarot. We've looked at the microcosmic cards in the major arcana of the tarot. This is 11 cards. The major arcana is 22 cards. The first 11 cards are the microcosmic. The next are the macrocosmic. Please like and subscribe and join us in the next video where we'll be looking at the macrocosmic cards of the major arcana.